Hello, Maya. How you doing today?
Good, thank you, Eddie. How about yourself?
I'm doing great as well, Maya. Maya, today it's a pleasure for me to learn a little bit more about your managed SDR sales offer so that users of the Cloud Plus Marketplace viewing the service offer can decide whether they want to invite you for an interview for their request or not. There's three questions I want to cover with you today, and the first one is, who is the best fit for this service offer?
Sure. This service offer is actually quite unique because it suits companies that actually want to create an internal BDR program but are struggling in terms of hiring, training, and scaling a good BDR team. So, in this instance, what we do is we build the BDR team inside of the company. So that means that we both source, train, and ramp the BDR. So it's really for companies that eventually want to own the function and to have an agency helping them create their own BDR team.
Perfect. Is there any level of maturity they need to have when it comes to product market fit? Like, should they already have an ideal customer for this product or service in order to build that internal team? Or can you work with companies that maybe have not found that yet and are still developing their go to market motions?
Sure, no. So this model really strictly fits not just companies that have developed the product market fit, but they actually want to open quite a substantial team of BDRs. So at least 3 to 4 BDRs to start with, because that motion is about building a team, not so much a single BDR.
Okay, so it sounds like it wouldn't be for companies that are just starting to play with sales, want to learn how the game works, but rather have tried outsource before. They know it works. They have a product or service, could be a new launch, something existing, but they just want to amplify and have a dedicated in house team built with experts, good practices. That's when you come in and you provide the human talent, the methodologies, and the process. So I guess that leads into my next question, Maya, which is, what are the components of this service offer?
Sure. This service, there are some choices depending on the company, but it can incorporate anything from the initial sourcing of the candidates to the training of the team and to the actual ongoing weekly, daily, monthly management of the BDR team into performance. So that includes both building the cadences and doing A/B tests with them and listening to the BDR calls and giving them feedback and doing the optimizations with them as if we're internally part of the company in order to drive them to success.
Perfect. That would also include the generation of the leads, like sourcing them, putting them in the leads, organizing in them in the CRM.
Correct. So include everything that a normal BDR manager would do. So including building the cadences, building the lists, putting it into the CRM, having the reps reach out to the lists, doing weekly reporting, saying how they track, making optimizations from there, coaching the BDRs on best practices if the call is not right, if the objection wasn't handled the right way, and in that way driving them into performance.
Fantastic. One question to double click here. Tell me a little bit more about the roles that are maybe working on the front lines or behind the scenes to support the delivery of this service offer. You mentioned there may be a manager, there may be a rep. Help me understand which are dedicated resources, which are shared, and how many resources work on the account in this service.
Sure. So it does depend on how many BDRs we're actually ramping. The BDR manager may be dedicated or may be shared with other accounts, depending on the size of the team of BDRs. And then there's also a BDA supporting the BDR manager in terms of the list building and getting the right data onto the BDRs. And then the dedicated resources. Also, the BDRs that we're hiring for this project, again depending on the company whether they need 3, 10, it really depends on how or what's the head count there, but the
Mhm.
BDRs that we're sourcing and training will be dedicated resources.
Perfect. So your hiring companies or your buyers will get a dedicated SDR executing the outbound, but also complementary positions like you mentioned a BDA. I'm assuming this is a business development associate, someone that generates lead lists, clean them, uploads them to the CRM, basically not having to take time away from the SDR cold calling and doing outbounding and just making them more productive. You continue to do your calls, you continue to send your emails, we will make sure that your lead lists are uploaded in the system that you're going to be working from. Is that correct?
Correct.
Fantastic. All right. So that leads me to then my last question. Tell me a little bit of what a client can typically expect if they were to buy this service from you today. What would they see over the next 120 days when it comes to meetings, deliverables, milestones, etc.?
So first of all, what's important to mention here is that with the managed programs, what they will get is actually BDRs trained on how to do outbound for their specific product. Okay, so that includes both the BDR best practices as well as their specific product cadences, sales playbook, process, systems, and actually have BDRs in place as well. The second caveat of that is that they will actually get the BDR starting to reach the ramp mode. So in about 3 months, BDR is starting to reach what we call the ramp BDR. So reaching the ideal amounts of meetings booked. That is dependent on the target market, whether it's enterprise, SMB, etc. We're able to give sort of more concrete, predictions as to what that would be. But what they're really getting after 3 months is a ramped BDR that is acting as an internal BDR, and that after a period of time is becoming their own internal BDR, whether they continue with Growth Engine or not is their decision, but they actually have a ramped internal BDR team.
Perfect. So is there like a time frame in which, on average, the resources shift from working under your management to working under your hiring or your buyer's management?
Correct. So it's typically about 6 months, and then either the client wants us to continue, or either they take over the management, and the BDR continue to be an internal team.
All right, fantastic. Well, Maya, those are all the questions that I had for you today. I want to thank you for providing more details about your managed SDR teams so that buyers and users of the CloudTest Marketplace can decide whether they want to invite you for an interview for their request or not. Maya, thank you so much for your time, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks you, Eddie.
Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.